Chapter 7. We are so out of range. The minutes dragged on as the girls huddled together, trying to keep warm. The wind picked up and dark clouds moved across the chalky gray sky. Emma kept her eyes on the river, praying that the boat would return, while Lily scanned the woods, keeping a sharp lookout for the boys. Katie cried for her mother, then for Matt. Lily tried to comfort her, rubbing the little girl's reddened fingers in her own frozen hands. As Lily looked around at the strange overgrown landscape, she wondered where they were and how far back in time they had gone. Everything was so strange and beyond belief, except for the numbing cold. That she knew to be real. Her fingers and toes were freezing, and Katie's nose was turning bright red before her eyes. Lily thought about what Q had said, how a person could freeze to death in just 3 hours. She watched Emma flip open her phone for the 100th time, hoping to have her signal return. But her sister's face crumpled once again at the sight of the words, "out of range." The loud screech of a raven echoed from across the dark water. "What else do you have in your pocketbook?" Lily asked her sister. "Why?" Emma asked. "For survival," Lily told her. "I've only got my phone and this," Emma said, holding up the bottle of red nail polish. "Oh, great," Lily groaned. "At least our nails will look good when we get eaten by wolves." "What wolves?" Katie asked in a small voice. "Don't mind her," Emma said. "She didn't mean it. Did you, Lily?" Lily saw the terror in Katie's face and was instantly sorry for what she'd said. "Matt and the boys will be back any minute," she said, trying to smile at Katie and calm her down. Katie smiled back, but a sudden gust of wind whipped at their hair and set their teeth chattering harder than ever. "Where could they be?" Emma wondered aloud. "I don't know, but we can't wait out here much longer in this cold weather. We'll have to go look for them," said Lily, fear edging into her voice. The twins helped Katie stand, and the three started for the path the boys had taken. It was slow going as they took turns carrying Katie over the rough ground. Moving quickly helped them to warm up, but the farther into the woods they went, the darker and colder it grew. "Matt, where are you?" Lily shouted into the shadows. "Hooter! Tony! Q!" Emma called. The only reply was the sound of a squirrel racing over the branches of a pine tree. Something stirred in a tangle of brown vines overhead. Lily bit down on her lip and continued on until they came to the sudden split in the path. "Please let this be the way they went," she prayed aloud, steering them to the left. They slowly made their way along the rock-strewn frozen ground. Lily was desperate to find Matt and the boys, but they were nowhere in sight. Katie groaned with each step they took. Finally, just when they thought she could go no farther, they spotted smoke in the distance. A wave of relief washed over them at the sight of the stone houses and clapboard shops that flanked the street. But the girls soon discovered that the street was not like any they'd ever been on back home. It was not made of asphalt, but of cobblestones that were hard to walk on, and they had to navigate their way around piles of steaming horse manure. They passed ropes and riggings that were strung before a sail shop, and a bloody pig's head that hung from a butcher's iron hook outside his window. A gaggle of geese pecked at the ground, while a small boy in a blue wool coat and red cap pulled a cow by a rope. Thick smoke poured out of the stout chimneys, and the stench of ripe manure mingled with the smell of wood smoke in the frigid air. "It looks like Star Village, that reenactment place we went to last summer with Mom and Dad," Emma said. "Only that place had a parking lot full of cars," Lily said, nodding toward a horse and wagon tied to a hitching post. As they neared the boy with the cow, Emma slipped her phone into her purse and called to him. "Have you seen 4 boys?" The boy shook his head no and kept on walking. Next, Lily tried knocking on the door of a house. A haggard young woman in a long dress and apron appeared at the door with a baby in her arms. Lily was instantly taken aback by the bad smells that wafted outside. "Excuse me," she said. "We were wondering if you could help us." The woman's thick, dark eyebrows arched as she looked the girls over. "I have hardly enough to feed my own children without giving away what little I have to gypsies like you. Why don't you sell the gems you're wearing in your ears if you want to eat?" And without another word, she slammed the door shut. Lily and the girls moved on down the street, confused by the woman's rudeness. "Push off!" they heard a man holler at some noisy geese. A squealing piglet trotted past. The man was standing with his head and hands locked in a wooden frame, his teeth chattering in the cold. "Why is that man standing there like that?" Katie asked. "He's in stocks," Lily told her. "We read about them in class. They used to lock people up in stocks when they did bad things and broke the law." "What mischief are you 3 up to?" the man barked. Lily took a tentative step forward. "We're looking for 4 boys. Have you seen them?" Maybe the man replied with a cruel smile. Maybe I saw them hop a wagon and head down this very street. Then again, maybe I didn't. As he laughed hoarsely, a stream of spittle hung from his lower lip. Lily almost fell over backward trying to get away from him. Can you tell us where we are? Emma asked. You're in Boston town, lass. Home of the unforgiving, the man replied with a sarcastic sneer. And the year, Emma pressed? Can you tell us what year it is? I may have emptied my neighbor's jug of ale, but I can still remember the yar, said the man, slurring his words. 'Tis 1776, and those cursed lobsterbacks are sleeping in our beds, stealing our food, and using our tombstones for target practice, he added with a scowl. Lobsterbacks? Emma repeated. Redcoats, the man spit on the ground. The British dogs who have imprisoned us in our own city. Lily and Emma grabbed hold of Katy and took off down the frozen footpath. Oh my gosh, Emma said, staring back at the brick houses and shops around her. Did you hear what year he said it was? But her words were drowned out by the sudden loud beat of a drum and the echo of boots stamping on the hard cobblestones. A brigade of soldiers in bright red uniforms came marching up the road toward them. The girls instinctively drew back as the lines of redcoats filled the street. Halt! An officer shouted. The soldiers froze in place. At ease, he said. The men lowered their heavy muskets, and with heads tilting and shoulders sagging, they broke formation. They stood talking in small groups when one of the men fitted his musket with a bayonet and drove it into the head of the pig that hung before the butcher shop. He lifted the horrible-looking thing into the air and swung it around. The animal's dull, glassy eyes stared straight ahead, and its mouth hung dumbly open. See here, lads, he shouted. It's George Washington's head I've got. His comrades roared with laughter. And right where it belongs, too. On the end of an English blade, another shouted. Huzzah! Huzzah! The men cheered. The girls backed away in horror, the harsh cry of the soldiers' voices ringing in their ears. They turned down one winding street and then another, feeling as if they had been swallowed up in a labyrinth of cobblestones. A sharp wind blew the fake fur on their coats and chilled them to the bone. I don't want to keep going, Katy cried, suddenly sinking down to the ground and refusing to move. Katy, you've got to try, Lily urged her. But Emma sank down as well. We don't even know where we're going. Lily looked up at the sky. It was as bleak as their spirits, the sun rapidly sinking behind the slate-covered rooftops. It would soon be dark and would become even colder. She searched the street in a panic. Where were Matt and the boys? What if the girls never found them? How would they survive on their own here in Boston, more than 200 years in the past? Try calling home again, pleaded Lily. We can't, Emma sobbed, opening her phone once again. There's no signal. We are out of range. Oh, Lily, we are so out of range. Chapter 8. Moses. Please, begged Matt. Please don't hurt us. But the big-muscled man coming toward him made no reply. He grabbed hold of Matt by his collar and roughly lifted him off the ground. In the sliver of moonlight that crossed his assailant's face, Matt saw that the man's eyes were hard and steely. His sallow cheeks were pitted with scars. The man slammed Matt up against the building. Matt gasped at the pain that shot through him. Two other men shoved Hooter and Q up beside him. Please, Matt tried again, please. No good begging now, the scar-faced man barked. You've seen too much. We didn't see anything, Hooter stammered. If these spies get word back to the redcoats, they're sure to send a patrol of dragoons, one of the other men said. He fingered the hatchet that hung from his belt. And if we're found out, we'll all swing on the common tomorrow at sunup, another added, pointing his gun at Q's head. No, no, Matt cried, you're wrong. We aren't spies, we're just regular kids. We won't tell anyone what we saw, if you'll just let us go, Q pleaded. We've got money, Tony blurted out. If we give it to you, will you let us go? What money? Matt whispered. Hooter's birthday money, Tony said nervously, eyeing the scar-faced man. Hooter nodded. I was saving for an aquarium, but you can have it instead. It's $100, and it's right here in my pocket. It's not a copy, it's the real thing. It's right there, wrapped in tinfoil, and you can... Stop your jabbering, the scar-faced man barked. He reached into Hooter's pocket and pulled out the piece of tinfoil. He slowly unfolded it and held it up to show the other men. Much to the boys' surprise, their captors seemed to be more interested in the tinfoil than the money. I have never seen tin hammered so thin, one of the men exclaimed. 'Tis a miracle. Why, 'tis thin as paper, another man said, rubbing his fingers over the foil. And look at the money, Hooter urged. It's $100. What paper currency is this? The scar-faced man demanded on inspecting the bill. It's legal, Hooter hurried to explain. See the picture on it? It's Benjamin Franklin. He's a founding father. I know because I did a report on him and I got an A. But I kind of got in trouble because... Shut your gob, the Scarface man shouted. The men looked more confused than ever. Whose father did he say he was? One of them asked. The Scarface man studied the bill. He looked back at Hooter. What trickery is this? It's no trick, Hooter insisted. That's a real one, not like the other ones I made. My teacher took all of those and... Silence, the Scarface man bellowed. This paper of yours is nothing but shin plaster. Shin plaster, repeated Matt. Only good to bandage a bloody leg, the man growled. He pocketed the tinfoil, but threw the bill back at Hooter. Your worthless paper will curry no favor with us. He butted the barrel of his musket up against Hooter's chest. Then he turned to his comrades. I say we make quick work of silencing them now, while we still have the cover of night. His fingers tightened around the gun's trigger. Hold your fire, man, a voice suddenly commanded. The old man from the mill stepped out of the shadows. You have mistaken these lads. Their kin have shed blood for our cause, and we need them alive, for they will be useful to us. Matt's eyes met the old man's. A flicker of hope rose inside of him. Maybe they would be saved after all. But what did he mean by useful to them? The Scarface man scowled and spit on the ground. You'd better be right, for they waste no time on trials for the likes of us. We'll all swing if we're found out. No one is going to hang, the old man said firmly. And since I am in charge, you will do as I say. He nodded to the boys. Get them up to the mill now, and be quick about it. The boys stumbled back up the wooden steps with muskets pointed at their backs. Once inside the mill, they huddled on the bench, while the old man ordered the other men to keep a lookout at the door. Then he sat down on the stool and glowered at Matt. I told you to stay away from this mill. I'm sorry, Matt said, squirming under the fierceness of his gaze. Sorry, the old man shouted. He pounded his fist on the table. Sorry will get you a hatchet through the heart. Sorry will get you hanged. These are dangerous times, lad, and if you hope to live through them, you must do as I say. One misstep could cost you everything. Do you take my meaning? Yes, sir, Matt nodded. The old man let out a tired sigh. What is your name, boy? Matthew Carleton, Matt replied. The old man's eyes narrowed. And you say you are a patriot, Matthew Carleton? I have no proof of this, but if there's one thing I have learned in my business, it's to read the stamp of a man on his face. Your business being the rebel business? Matt asked. The old man picked up an iron rod and poked the fire. Have you no relatives in the city? No, it's like I told you. We're not from here. We're sort of traveling, Matt said. My sister came with us. She and two other girls are waiting for us back at the river. Well, you've chosen a most dangerous time to visit, the old man said. Tell me about it, Tony muttered. Stand up, lad, the old man said, suddenly looming over Tony. Tony jumped to his feet. You'll go with 2 of my men down to the river and fetch the girls. If you dare to run, my men will have orders to shoot. Mind you, should they miss and you don't return, your 3 friends here will pay the price. Do you understand? Tony was so nervous he nodded like a bobblehead and was quickly hustled out the door. When the old man returned to the fire, he sank down on his stool and looked at the boys. Perhaps we can be of use to one another, he said. We can aid you in your search for these girls, so that you may all get home. In return, you will do us a favor. I don't think you'll be able to help us get back home, Matt said sadly. We came from really far away, Hooter blurted out. It's complicated, Q added. The old man frowned. Perhaps I'm not making myself clear. I am not offering you a choice here. The danger I spoke of is just on the other side of that door. The British are holding Boston captive and have closed our harbor. They are pillaging our homes and stealing our food. My comrades are as loyal to General Washington as any patriots in the colonies. But they are jittery from lack of sleep and from living in the shadow of a hangman's noose. They are quick to strike if crossed. The old man continued. I can offer you safe passage out of here, but you must do as I say, or I'll throw you back to them. And they'll pounce, by God they will, like a hungry fox in a chicken coop. Ever seen a fox tear the head off a chicken? Matt's throat went dry. I just want to find my sister and our friends and go home, he said in a shaky voice. Then heed my advice, lad, and you may just live to do that, the old man told him. You say you are a patriot? Well, you soon will have a chance to prove it. The old man walked to the door and turned back around before he left. Oh, and one more thing. You can call me Moses.